Well, I got good news. Joe Biden is finally having a full cabinet meeting tonight. You know how long it's been since the last one he had? It's been a year. The President of the United States of America, in one of the most tumultuous times in American history, has not had a full cabinet meeting with his cabinet in over a year. Shocking. Of course, though, tagging along this time, for the first time, was his wife, Jill Biden. So, during his first cabinet meeting in over a year, once again, let me repeat that, the President of the United States has not had a full cabinet meeting in almost a year. He decided to bring Jill along for the ride for the first time and actually handed it off to her to speak. Here's a snippet here. Let me share with you this clip.
We're grateful that Jill is here today. Heard that clapping. It wasn't for me when we came in. Here across previous administration, First Ladies have attended these meetings for specific reasons. This is the first time Jill has joined us, and it goes to show how important the issue is, which she's about to speak to the both of us. Today, at the top of our meeting, Jill's going to give an update on the House initiative, White House initiative, to fundamentally change the approach and fund how we approach and fund women's health services. So I'd like to turn it over to Jill and for any comments she has, and it's all yours, kid.
Thank you. You know, sometimes the White House...
She's sitting at the head of the table.
...surprises you.
Like, this happened. Unbelievable. But believable at the same time. So this really makes you want to know, how is it that people have any trust in the ensuing possible administration, Kamala Harris, his potential successor? Because not only is she the VP for this candidate, but she's also the same VP who was convincing us all that Joe was great. He was fine. He was with it. Behind closed doors, he was so smart, and he was smart, and he was a savvy, and he was sharp as a tack. That's what they said. Like, they literally would tell you that. No, but I mean, I know when anybody else sees him in real life, you know, he's completely senile and can't do his job. But when it's behind closed doors, you know, dude, you should see him. It's like he's 30 years old again. So how is it that she is not being held somewhat responsible for pushing the narrative that the guy was fine? He is clearly not. He's actually not even doing anything. What has he been doing? He's been on vacation a whole bunch. I've seen lots of videos of him at the beach. She gets all the airtime. Well, her and Trump. Trump gets all the negative airtime. But she gets all the airtime. Kamala Harris does. And Joe is still the president. It really goes to show you how complicit the media is in, well, you know, for the establishment, for the Democrats, but it also shows you, like, what's important to them. It's really important to them that she win the race. They don't give a crap about the country. They don't give a crap that a guy that is completely checked out is running the show. A guy that was forced to step down because he declined so much that they forced him to walk away against his will. They don't care about that, though. No, they want to, you know, they want to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't get elected. That's all they care about. They don't care about the country in any way. They don't care about your well-being. They don't care about, and, you know, hey, we should have this guy in office who can actually make sure that, you know, if World War III starts, he can handle it, to handle some decision making. Instead, he's sitting in a cabinet meeting, the first time in almost a year, a full cabinet meeting, and he hands it off to his wife to talk. This is very reminiscent of what happened to Woodrow Wilson at the end of his tenure as president. He had had a stroke. He had handed his presidential duties off to the first lady. This is what this feels like. You know, a lot of the major post-World War I decision-making fell upon her. His wife's, Woodrow Wilson's wife, it was his second wife, was named Edith Wilson. And she essentially was the, what she called the steward for the president when he had lost his cognitive abilities due to having a stroke. Hey, screw it. As long as we got somebody running the show, right? So here you have it that he's been on vacation basically since he stepped away from running, which he might as well have just stepped away from being the president, which he pretty much did. And then for the first time in almost a year, back with his cabinet, hands the baton off to his wife, and it's just like, we're not going to talk about this. I know that's Fox News bringing it up, but are the same media that is incessantly attacking Trump because of comments about Haitians, or, you know, saying that his inflammatory rhetoric is what caused himself to get shot at, or potentially shot. You know, they're too busy espousing that kind of talk. They don't really care about, you know, talking about stuff like this. Shouldn't this be a major freaking scandal? Shouldn't them of forcibly pushing Joe Biden out of the race been the major scandal? I would have thought so. Seems like a pretty big deal to me. If you were a journalist and your reputation was on the line, and also you're just a curious person and you go into journalism for a certain reason, aside from just being a big hack on CNN or MSNBC or something, you should be all over stories like that. But you're not. You don't care about that kind of stuff at all. No. All that matters is Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad. We have to know how bad Trump is. Did you guys know Trump's bad? It's not just mainstream. It's just not MSNBC and CNN though. It's everything. It's like, pull up your computer. Pull up your computer. Sit down at your computer, boot it up, go to whatever web browser you use. Okay, you'd say you use Microsoft Edge. I want you to tell me what kind of stories pop up when the news parts blip onto your screen. Because mine is all just Trump bad, JD Vance bad, Kamala Harris good, and it's constant. Just scrolling through, it has a little ticker, just takes you through to the next story. And it's just like, it's all like clickbait, Trump is bad articles. But it doesn't surprise me. But they're not going to talk about this. They're not going to talk about the fact that this guy is completely gone. It's so freaking infuriating. I'm so tired of hearing about Donald Trump. I'm so sick of it. I don't care. I don't care what any of the crap they have to say about him. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's so tired, and it's so repetitive, and it's so monotonous, and it's so stupid, and it's so made up and concocted and bombastic and over the top. And it's just so exhausting. I don't care. I don't care about him being a threat to democracy, because that is meaningless to me. Okay? I hate to be the bearer of bad news to people that really love democracy, but democracy is not your most sacred right as a United States citizen. It's not. Your liberty, your right to speech, your right to protect yourself, those are sacred. Democracy does not. Your freedom is not. Democracy and freedom are not the same thing. Okay? Democracy is this thing that lets you pretend like you get a say. Democracy is this thing so that way we can keep most people, most people can just stay content and think, oh, we live in the great country that lets us democratically have a choice. So you're telling people that Trump's the biggest threat to that? Like, okay, you are the biggest threat to my freedom. Him too, you know. State politicians are the biggest threat to your freedom. You know, the media especially, which I want to get into it just pisses me off. They're so, our government in the media and our intelligence agencies, and they're all hand in hand together, actively squashing your constitutional rights. And then they go up there and they have the audacity to go, well, democracy's under threat. Like, they think you're stupid. That's why they talk like that. Oh, my precious democracy. It could take, like, you realize that 51% of the people in this country wanted to take democracy away. That is democracy, and then you no longer have it. Okay? We're not a full-blown democracy anyways, but like that's how it works. If we were a true democracy, it would just be mob rule. If 51% of the country decided to just, you know, snuff you out for no reason, then they would, that's what they could do. 51% of the people in the country voted to take all your stuff away, and then in a true democracy, that would be allowed. Does that sound like something so precious to you? But this is the reality of it is, I'm so sick of hearing about Donald Trump. I'm so sick of hearing about him as a threat to democracy. I hear democracy like 1,000 times a day. I'm sick of it. But meanwhile, we're watching this rotten fossil of a politician go on vacation on our tax dollar and show up eventually after almost a year to have a full-blown cabinet meeting. Like a full cabinet meeting for the first time in nearly a year. And we have to hear from his wife, who is not, you know, like she's not, we didn't vote for her. I didn't vote for either of them, but I'm saying, you know, the people of America didn't vote for her. But also, you know, we have to sit there and look at this guy who was overwhelmingly the choice to run for president on the Democratic ticket, who was ousted against his will, and then now there's this other candidate who has a good chance of winning that nobody picked. But you're going to tell me that it's a great threat to my democracy. Such a threat. It's like, shut up about it. It's exhausting. It's stupid. I don't care. Like, that is so meaningless to me. Just like most of the stuff you say about him, it's so repetitive that I think to most people, unless you have Trump derangement syndrome already, it's just so meaningless. It's like, oh, here we go. He's a fascist. He's a whatever. Like, it's just, shut up. We get it. Okay, we understand. I don't think that you understand that the talk like that is not helping your cause. If you really wanted to win this election, you would shut up with that type of stuff. And you would pick a different thing to talk about. Talk about the actual stupid stuff that he's done. Talk about not just make stuff up or just blow things out of proportion. It's so stupid. But like, that's what the media is going to focus on all the time. We're going to talk about him 24/7. And how awful he is. And how we're so self-righteous and so much better than all of you. But meanwhile, you know, we're just going to ignore things like the fact that this was the first cabinet meeting in almost a year. Or, you know, Kamala Harris was part of a group of people that basically, you know, forced Joe Biden out of his nomination, and then they put her in place without any votes. Or that Trump, you know, just had a second person with a gun try to just do away with him. But let's not. We're not going to talk about that. Instead, let's talk about Haitian immigrants and how hard they have it, how rough it is. It's just so exhausting. So, you know, right now, what have we had? What's happened in the last 11 months? Okay, let's go back to, August 2023. We've had, well, let's just even skip to recently. You've had 2 people try to take Trump out. You've had all different levels of rising divisiveness in this country. You've had food is unaffordable, gas is unaffordable. You've had bridges collapse, roads are falling apart, trains are derailing. You have all these issues, but you can't get the president to sit down with his cabinet for almost a year. It's like, dude, the whole thing is such an illusion. It's fake. It's all fake. Because they don't care at all. So I don't want to rail on this the whole time. Forgive my my demeanor. I fell asleep last night watching Thursday Night Football on the couch and ended up sleeping there all night until like 4 a.m. I got into bed. But it was like 5 a.m. And then I slept for like an hour. And everything hurts now. My neck hurts. My back hurts. I'm pretty sure my face hurts. Sleep has been not happening the last few nights. Sick family. People are sick, coughing, keeping me up all night. I don't get sleep, and it's wearing me down. That's why last night I didn't do a show, because I sat down to watch Thursday Night Football and I fell asleep. And the game worked pretty well to put me to sleep, because it was one of those type of games. So forgive me for missing. I know you all, you're looking forward to that every night. Greatest part of the night. Just kidding. There's so many things. I have a spreadsheet. I have a Google Doc of all the sources I save every day. I go through and I list them. It's been ongoing since I started doing this, a month or 2 ago when I started doing my show here. And I have so many things, and every day I put so much stuff down that I wanted to, I want to get to every day, and then it just doesn't end up happening. So there's so many things I want to talk about. But one thing that really pisses me off, and I'm really sick of it, is internet censorship. Moderators, censorship, all this type of stuff. Because it almost overwhelmingly leans in one direction. And much of the entities that aim to censor us are things we pay for as taxpayers. I have some stuff here I can show you. And then they will just flat out lie to try to discredit people. Call them Russian propagandists. I'm not just talking about Tenet Media. There's other stories there. This has just been an ongoing thing, and it almost gets no play, but it's not shocking, because the people that should be talking about it are right on board with censoring you, because they want their authority back. They want to be the voice of truth, and the only way to do that is to censor you so you don't know what the actual truth is. And that's what that's real. That's what they want. That's why is it that things that are constantly labeled disinformation or misinformation turn out to be the truth? It doesn't work when you say that stuff. Do people actually believe it's not true? No. But the point of that is, sorry, my wife's snake. My wife has a snake in a tank above my desk, and it gets out and slithers at night, and it kind of creeps me out. And then my other cat is sleeping in here, and he is always creeped out by it. He watches it with this sick fascination. It's like a big ball python. I'm not a huge snake fan. She doesn't bother me that bad, but at night is when she gets out and she starts creeping around. Kind of weirds me out just a little bit. My biggest fear is I'll be sitting here working and somehow she'll have gotten out and slither around my feet. I have there's a theological reason for me to dislike snakes, because remember, who was it that tricked the man to fall? It was the snake. I'm just kidding, of course. I just don't really care for them, regardless. I don't know what it is. So anyways, most of the things that are labeled disinformation or misinformation are end up being true because it's a threat to the narrative. And that's because the narrative means that the media and the government go hand in hand. They hold hands and they are so happy together, espousing their crap. And, you know, so I read an article. I kind of went down this rabbit hole because I saw there was a story from, I'll pull it up for you in just a second here, but there's a story from, where did it go? So there's some articles here. There's a lot of them actually. Uncanceled.news had linked to it that there were State Department funded fact checkers that were used to censor lawful speech. And then Google had partnered in 2015 with an organization called Pointer to teach journalists how to use Google tools, which connected back to government. To government funding and government level censorship. So excuse me just one sec here. So yeah, fun stuff. So you have that whole thing going on, and then so I went down this rabbit hole, and so I was looking at an article. It was by Wired.com and dated back to 2019, and it was about censors or moderators on Reddit. And moderators on Reddit they're largely volunteer. And here, I'll show you the article. It's probably going to be, this is my last free article, so whatever, go away thing. I'm not going to pay a dime for freaking Wired magazine or Wired whatever. I guess is it a magazine anymore? I don't even know what it is. So this is the article here. It says listen to this title, the punishing ecstasy of being a Reddit moderator, banishing zombies and tracking down Russian propaganda on the front lines with the social site's volunteer army. So, there are thousands of people. Yeah, tens of thousands. So there are fewer than 500. This is from 2019, so I'm not sure the numbers might have changed, employees or whatever, but fewer than 500 paid employees at Reddit, but tens of thousands of us volunteer moderators. So you can imagine, who finds content moderation appealing? That's my ultimate answer. I just scrolled through that article. You can pause it if you want to read it. But essentially, it's just going down. It's everything you think it would be, right? We got to combat Russian disinformation, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yep, because Russia is the only country we have to worry about in the world, right? Because we can link Russia, because we once upon a time made up a fairy tale that the president that we all hate was a Russian agent. And we continue to go along with this fairy tale. And so what we can do now is we can say things like Russian propaganda, and people who believe our fairy tale will be like, oh, those Russians, they gave us this evil guy. The narrative still goes around, by the way. Just ask Hillary Clinton. She's still going strong. On that whole thing. Talking about how Putin handled the election. Putin was the reason I lost. Russia. So who do you think finds content moderation appealing? I don't really know anybody that would like to do that job, besides for like lefties, especially when it's volunteer, because think about how perfect it is. Reddit, let's just do a quick research here. Ready? Let's do the fun, let's do research. How many people visit Reddit a month? There we go. 2.1 billion visits in December of 2023. So over a billion. So it's one of the most popular websites in the world, but it's also one of the most heavily censored websites in the world. And it's a forum. It's a forum which is supposed to be like, hey, like if you don't like what I'm saying in this forum, then don't read it. But then it turned into like, well, no, we can have a major thumb on the scale when dealing with one of the most visited websites in the world. And lots of people go to Reddit for just general information, right? So it's easy to see why a certain group of people in this country or world, I guess, would be driven toward moderation. But the thing is, most people I know that are libertarian like myself or more right-leaning tend to be less about overt censorship. Now listen, before you have a freak out and say, what? The right doesn't want to censor too? They do, okay? That's not my point. There are lots of people on the right that do want that, but overwhelmingly, most people are like, I don't want to hear it. I think what you're saying is wrong or stupid, but I'm not about like we need to ban these people. We need to block them. We need to shadow ban them, right? People on the left find that far more appealing, and it's a great way. It's a great way to, cater the system to your worldview and make yours the most prominent voice on the platform. So if you're all drawn toward that, it's like a big happy club for people that like to, push bullcrap. That's a wonderful way to do it, And yes, you do it it's volunteer, but think about how powerful it can be to have that. You can shut down anybody you disagree with. And the problem is, for a lot of these people, disagreement is not just, I don't like what you have to say, or you upset me. It's like, no, that's the most painful thing I have to hear. I can't handle it if I have to hear, someone who likes Trump or someone who doesn't believe in COVID mandates or, what have you. People that don't believe in, I don't know, you name it. All the stupid culture war crap. There's people out there that if there's any dissension from their worldview, they cannot handle it. They lose their minds, and it is like, to them, it's like a violence, basically. It's this painful thing. And also, they're buying into this idea that the right and conservatives and Trump are extremely dangerous. And they're far more about safety on the left than the right are. So if you were buying into the safety thing and you need to protect your little safe space here, then, you take that very seriously. But I just wonder, who wants to volunteer their free time to do this? There's me, I have a busy life. Okay, I work, so I'm a writer, I'm a researcher, I'm a historian, a writer, a researcher. My main thing is I'm a historian. That's why I'm Dr. Jesse Roberts. I'm doctor of history, not doctor of real doctor. So, I have a day job, I have a job, I have kids to raise, my wife's a medical student, I am constantly taking care of everything. And I do spend a lot of snippets of time reading stuff online, listening to, I do that all day, every day, but it's for fun, watching some videos here and there, listening to podcasts. With the short span of time I have in my life, I'm not going to waste it volunteering to moderate people. There's nothing in it for me. That may sound selfish, but it's like, this is obviously appealing to people who have the time to do it, but also it's going to be far more appealing to people that think like, hey, listen, we need to protect ourselves, protect our world, protect this country. Let's go all in. So that's one angle, okay? Volunteer moderators. Who does it appeal to? Who wants to do it? You know, not even just volunteer moderators. Remember, you know, most social media platforms have hired, you know, they hire out to like fact checkers and moderators, third party. And very often these, you know, they tend to be biased one way. I had to get a drink of coffee there. It's late. I'm sleep deprived. I'm trying to churn along here. So, you know, so a lot of the paid people that do it are biased too. But you got to think like, who often is that job appealing to? I don't know. But nobody I've ever met. So, whatever. Okay, so that's one angle of it. You have the volunteer moderators, you have the paid moderators, and they largely get to censor whoever they want, and I'm sure they like the power of that. I'm sure it's enjoyable for them. And now, here, let me pull up another story. This is what I was talking about earlier. There's a lot. You can go down this rabbit hole forever. It's fascinating, but simultaneously just pisses you off. All right. So a new report. This is from Uncanceled News. State Department funded fact checkers to censor lawful speech. From the Defender. The U.S. Department of State funded domestic and international fact-checking entities that censored American independent media outlets and social media users who questioned the Biden administration's COVID-19 and other policies, according to a congressional report. So, I know what you're thinking. Shocking. The report by the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Small Business stated, so they've been doing lots of stuff about censorship. I have more there. The federal government has funded, developed, and promoted entities that aim to demonize news and information outlets because of their lawful speech. The government's actions fueled a censorship ecosystem that suppressed individuals' First Amendment rights and the ability of certain small businesses to compete online. The report focused on the State Department's Global Engagement Center, which promoted and funded tech startups and other small businesses in the disinformation detection space with domestic censorship capabilities. Now, according to our State Department, they claim that there was very little involvement in the funding of the Global Engagement Center, which is a joke. The fact-checking firms named in the report include the International Fact-Checking Network, owned by the Poynter Institute and NewsGuard. The International Fact-Checking Network, established in 2015, received funding from another State Department-affiliated group, the National Endowment for Democracy, and from Google, the Open Society Foundations, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. According to the House report, the federal government assisted the private sector in detecting alleged misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation for moderation, and worked with foreign governments with strict internet speech laws, including the European Union member states and the United Kingdom, to censor speech. The report determined that the GEC and the National Endowment for Democracy violated international restrictions by collaborating with fact-checking entities to assess the content of domestic media outlets. Excuse me. The fact-checking operations targeted independent media outlets, and as a result, the scales are tipped in favor of outlets which express certain partisan narratives rather than holding the government accountable. Whether the State Department's actions rise to unconstitutional violations of the First Amendment is currently before the courts. Of course it is. The State Department and several GEC officials are defendants in the Murthy v. Missouri lawsuit, alleging the Biden administration colluded with social media to censor free speech. The Children's Health Defense and its chairman on leave, RFK Jr., are plaintiffs in the Kennedy vs. Biden, a similar lawsuit that last year was consolidated with Murphy vs. Missouri. The Poynter Institute was a defendant in another censorship lawsuit, the CHD vs. Meta. That CHD filed against Facebook's parent company. NewsGuard partnered with CDC, WHO to censor online content. According to the report, NewsGuard used money it received from the GEC and the U.S. Department of Defense to fund efforts to lower the advertising revenue of business purported to spread MDM. Let's see this. Okay, a system that rates the credibility of press is fatally flawed, as it's subject to a partisan lens of the assessor, making the ratings unreliable. Does this shock you at all? It's not shocking to me at all. This is a pretty long report, but it's very interesting if you go back and you read through it. So see, like here, like it says, like, and the Google News Lab partnered with International Fact Checking Network to dramatically increase the searchable output of fact checkers worldwide, expand fact checking in new markets, and support fact checking beyond politics, such as sports, health, and science. Google was also one of the original funders of the Trust Project, a consortium of news organizations that developed 8 trust indicators to help the public easily assess the integrity of news. So there are so many connections here, and you're gonna have to go back. I'll link this in the description of this video. But you go back and you connect the dots. And so this International Fact Checking Network, which it's no longer, is this the one? I think this is one. There was one of them that, it's like no longer in business, essentially, shut down in 2022. But there's a lot of these things. No, this isn't the one. Let me see if I can find it here for you. Let's see. Here we go. Poynter partnered with Google News Lab, which earlier that year helped establish First Draft News, active until 2022. First Draft was a consortium of social media verification groups that shared methods for combating fake news. The website, this website is still active. But yeah, it says here, they stopped doing their thing in 2022. Sorry, I'm like not trying to look like I'm sweating like crazy. Yeah. Hopefully that's not too loud. You might hear that in the background. Oops. So, there you have it. Shockingly, which I know this shocks me so much, the State Department's Global Engagement Center funded tech startups and small businesses in the disinformation detection space with domestic censorship capabilities, and they worked alongside foreign governments. Okay, they worked alongside foreign governments to determine what was misinformation and what was not. And you remember a few weeks ago I shared a video it was Steven Crowder's team uncovered the like a hidden camera thing with a UN legal advisor, some type of higher up, talking about the major threat that Trump is to globalism. And it's easy to see how they could say that when you have things like the current State Department under Joe Biden's administration working hand in hand with foreign governments to police what they called misinformation and disinformation. Remember, too, what happened a few weeks ago when Elon Musk refused to censor speech surrounding what was going on in the UK. The UK threatened to extradite Americans. The UK's some of their accounts were shut down for threats, and you also had the jerk off from the UK or from the EU, basically demanding he shut down a Twitter space or X space between Musk and Trump that day, because there's just too much going on. There's too much of a threat there. He's too much of a threat. He's a threat to us P words. Okay, trying to keep it G-rated somewhat. And those very people that were pushing Musk to shut down that X space and go after people that they didn't, hate speech, our government was working, via these other companies to censor speech, basically using them in an advisory role. What should we ban? What shouldn't we ban? It's so frustrating to me. Why is this not a bigger deal to people? This should be the biggest deal to you, more than the freaking election should be. Do you not understand that in the United States of America, the thing that separates you from many other countries in the world is your ability to speak freely without legal repercussions? And listen, we don't even get to really speak freely without legal repercussions these days. There's a guy that had to go to freaking serve prison time for sharing a meme that he didn't even create. They're making it rules here. You can't even question the integrity of elections. We are just one hate speech law away from this whole thing going to total shit. I'm serious. One hate speech law. If we have a thing in here like what Canada has or other countries have, it's over. That's Western civilization, baby. Gone, probably. Sure, Western civilization may exist. The relic of Western civilization will exist in these countries that were part of it. But the free thinking, innovative mind of the Western world will be gone when only one side of the aisle is allowed to have a say in the conversation. I'm so I wish people cared more about this. The state is intervening in your ability to speak about things, claiming that is misinfo or disinfo that turned out to be the misinformation and the disinformation turned out to be true. Okay, they were using taxpayer dollars to combat this stuff that ended up imagine if they had been successful in combating it. All the stuff that was fake and wrong would have been stuff we all had to just abide by, whether it was true or not. And imagine if they didn't get to be called on their crap, how much further they would have taken it. Because they're not going to go back and redact the damn thing. They're not going to go back and fix their narrative or say, oops, we were wrong. They still haven't done that. You know what they did? There was a harsh crackdown on speech, on your medical rights, on your freedom, on your liberty. And you know what they all say now? Listen, it was a scary time. None of us knew what we were doing. We didn't know what to do. You can't blame us. We were scared. We were just trying to help everybody. It's you don't realize that if people were not able to call them on their crap, how much further it would have gone. It would probably still be going on now. This should really piss you off. That your taxpayer money was going to companies that were being created to censor you. Do we need that? Do we need that? Is that what we really need to be investing money in for business? I don't believe in government subsidies at all. I think they're stupid. I think we should just have minimal to no government, and we work in a free market where we can actually save up money to buy things that we want to start a business with or what have you. But is that a wise thing? Who benefits from startups that are in the disinformation and misinformation space? Who benefits from that? Americans don't benefit from that. Nope. The people that are trying to run the show benefit from that, and that is the only thing. There is no return on investment there. You know, if they're going to use subsidies or give out money, the hope should be that there's a return on investment. Like, oh, we'll give you this money to make superconductors, which in turn, like the American people will get their money back because, they're going to get actual superconductors, and then these companies can sell them and make more jobs and buy more materials, and that's what it should do. It should catalyze economic growth. Things in the disinformation and misinformation space, it is literally flushing your money down the toilet, and the only group that will ever benefit from that are statists, our government. You should be so happy though that your money went to such a good cause. So that was one of the articles I thought was, well, this should be a bigger deal to you. So Pointer, which was it's one of the fact-checking firms that was funded and promoted by the Global Engagement Center, was this company called the Pointer Institute, which also had here, let me fix this a little bit here. This here. So, hope that's not the right one. Here, let me just bear with me 1 second here. I'll pull it up. So this disinformation and misinformation space company. Let's bonk my nose on the microphone there. Pointer, Google, SPJ partner to provide digital training for newsrooms in a bid. This is from August 24th, 2015. In a bid to train journalists in digital tools, the Pointer Institute is partnering with Google and the Society of Professional Journalists to train 10 professionals who will then teach other journalists how to best use Google tools. It's a way to train the trainers. This is a company that was part of the so-called disinformation industry. Okay, so this is all interconnected. Well, I'm not saying explicitly that this type of training was the reason why media is so, they're all in lockstep with each other. But I can certainly say that it's probably, should be a little sketchy considering it's a State Department funded thing. So that was one of them. So Matt Taibbi and Gabe Kaminsky and the Republican Congressman Jim Banks had written an article in the Washington Examiner that described an internal memo showing the State Department strategizing public relations responses to the Washington Examiner's. Okay, so this article showed how the State Department would flip the narrative on its head, showing people that people that had been openly dissenting from them, claiming that it was, you guessed it, Russian disinformation. So the memo criticizes Banks in an extremely devious way. The Indiana Republican last February was quoted by Gabe in the Examiner by saying that the Biden administration appeared to be knee-deep in efforts to crack down on speech. The State Department memo listed the bank's quote among its lists of criticisms to answer. However, the agency didn't quote the Examiner. It claimed to be quoting the Russian news agency RIA Novosti, giving the impression that Banks offered his criticism of Biden in Russian state media. But Banks never talked to this Russian outlet or any Russian agency. Instead, quotes only appeared in wholesale Russian translations of Gabe's Examiner article. So this is there they are again. The Global Engagement Center wanted badly to create the impression that Banks acted in service of Russian propaganda that they forgot to use the original Banks quote. They retranslated the original or the Russian version back to English, which showed their hand. So, of course, the State Department was like, well, we don't have we have very little to do with the Global Engagement Center. We don't fund its programs in the U.S. We've never attempted to moderate content in social media platforms. It's just such a joke to me. It's because you're funding it. You can't be like, oh, they directly censored people, but they say they don't have a hand in it is crazy. So it shows State Department's efforts to tie domestic critics to foreign influence, like Russia. Remember, Russia is just the biggest deal in the world. We saw that happen a few weeks ago. That's what just happened with Tenet Media. I don't know much about the situation other than I watched some of the people that were implicated in this thing, and it's just like it's very easy to see how claiming that narrative could be beneficial for taking down people that have very prominent voices that are averse to the establishment left and the uniparty and things like that, because it carries powerful connotations to say like this other evil regime is interfering in our our elections and interfering in our media, interfering in our government. It's like, do you understand that think about how many other countries are actively trying to undermine the United States of America besides for just Russia. You want to talk about countries that have a foreign influence, countries that have major influence in the United States of America. Why don't you talk to Ukraine and look at Zelensky? Huh? Because most people are done funding that crap. They want it to end. They want the killing to end. But somehow they'll keep churning out the money. But you know what? It's for democracy, even though that country basically canceled democracy as soon as the war started back in 2020 freaking 2. But hey, as long as they're not the bad guys that are influencing our media and our elections. Like this stuff is so detrimental and so important to know. Like, I know we're all focused on the election. I know it's like, oh, Harris versus Trump, right? Most people are thinking like, oh, Trump, he's the more anti-establishment candidate. If he doesn't get elected, we're screwed. The country's over. We're done. He's are basically going to rescue us all. And it's like, to me, the presidency is so minuscule on the larger scale of the things that need to be fixed in this country. Like, really bad. And things like this government censorship are Exhibit A. Like, that is far more detrimental to me than the presidency. The people that we're electing overall, besides for just the president. Mitch McConnell's gotten to be a politician for a very long time. Mitch McConnell doesn't give a crap about any of you. doesn't give a crap about this country. He cares about, he's a neocon. Why can't you get somebody else better? In any election, for that matter. Move on. That's what's important. You also need to find candidates who are more willing to fight for the shrinking of our government drastically. Because the people that are doing this and giving your money away, your money, not theirs, to the very companies that are going to censor you or help censor you, are filled with people working there that you can't do anything about. You didn't vote them in office. You can't fire them. You can't do anything about that. They can do whatever they want, though, on that front. But you can't do anything about it. It's just, people should just care about this so much more than they do. I think it's this thing where we all kind of go around day to day and we're like, we know we get censored, but what are you going to do? What you going to do about it? Well, and like this, I appreciate these reports coming out from the House, and I appreciate the efforts to investigate this stuff, but what are they going to do about it? Remember a few years ago when they hauled every major big tech CEO in front of Congress, and they put them through the ringer, and they were real harsh on them, and they made them uncomfortable, and they made them squirm in their seats, and then nothing. That was it. Like, that was what happened. How many Republicans do you get to hear crying and whining about this type of thing and will do nothing about it? There's a lot of them. Most of them. Like, you need to find people in there that are willing to fight for your actual constitutional rights. Your First Amendment rights are so... There's a reason why it's the first, because it is the most important thing to ensuring your liberty and your freedom, is the ability to speak freely, regardless if it offends people or pisses people off or hurts people's feelings or whatever. So you have these tiers of volunteer moderators, volunteers and paid, who, let's just face it, that job is probably more appealing to certain people. Then on top of that, you have our State Department working hand in hand with organizations who are giving money away to places to censor and moderate you, what you're saying on social media. Like, in 2024, they take away your social media, that's taking away your voice, dude. It's pathetic. You should be able to still go around your community and talk to people in person and spread the word that way and spread your message and, I don't know, come up with a print newspaper or something, right? But that's just not realistic. That's just not the world we live in anymore. They used to undercut people's ability to speak freely by shadow banning them and shutting down their Twitter accounts and things like that. That's why Elon Musk buying Twitter is the biggest threat to them, because, it's a major platform. It's the biggest social media platform in the world still, or at least one of them. And it's the #1 news app most places in the world. And so him having this major platform that allows people to speak freely is a threat to everybody else in that ecosystem. It's a threat to all other tech platforms, all of their social media platforms. Because you can share the truth on X. You can spread the word about, what other companies are doing, or you can spread the word about, you can counter the narrative, and you can do it on this major platform that so many people will see. It's like, that is a huge threat to them. And I saw earlier, I don't know if this is true or not. Let me see this real quick before I pull anything else up about this. Let's see. There was a probe about the CEO, about his takeover of X. So he didn't show up for a testimony. She didn't show up for testimony in a probe over his $44 billion Twitter takeover. Now the SEC wants sanctions. Of course they do. They're going to make it very hard for Musk to own X. They're going to do whatever they can to pressure him. It's like what they're doing to Trump. It's going to be the same tactics. Like that. They'll probably sanction him. Other governments around the world will put pressure on him. You know, advertisers won't go on his platform. Like, that's what you're going to get. They're going to try to force him to sell. He's the richest man in the world, so, I mean, he got ripped off. $44 billion for Twitter is a joke, considering what Twitter's, you know, what the real user base was and all the spam and bots and stuff. But to me, it was one of the most important things to happen over the last several years. Because it opened up free speech on at least one major platform. There were a lot of free speech alternatives out there that were okay. They just didn't really get the traction, and they were also echo chambers, and all they were about was politics. You know, like, I'm on a lot of these social media platforms, but you know, like what Parler was, or Getter, Gab, Truth. A lot of these things, it's just people talking politics all day, and it's like social media, like, that should be so much more than just politics. You should be able to talk sports, culture, you know, entertainment, media, whatever. And like, that's what X was cool, because it's also still, it's the most prominent platform used by all areas of life, you know, for anything. Business, tech, sports, all that stuff. It's so important that he bought it. But of course they're going to go after him now. They're going to try to do this. They're going to try to crush his they're going to try to crush his will to hang on to his company. I saw the other day Mark Cuban said he was open to buying it. Shocker. That guy's a joke. That guy's a slappy for Kamala Harris, man. I'm so sick. You know, it's like, for some reason, the dude always shows up in my For You feed. I probably commented on one of his posts one time 100 years ago, and it was a mistake, because I see it all the time, and it's like, man, everything you say is stupid. Like, I don't want to hear about how Kamala Harris is going to, like, give money that's not hers to businesses and stuff. Like, that's not helpful to me. But also, I don't want to hear about how you have, like, this obsession with Elon Musk, how much you hate his guts. Of course you want to buy the platform. And of course you want to support her. You and most other people of your stature, and I don't fault you for that. Listen, I don't have a problem if you are a rich person, a very wealthy person, and you want to vote for a candidate who is, it's in your best interest because it's going to help you retain your wealth, then that is perfectly okay to me. Like, I remember when Patrick Mahomes' wife, you know, she liked a Trump Instagram post or something, and of course the left lost their minds, and I saw people commenting like, well, of course they want to vote for him because they're rich and they just want to protect their money. Yeah, and I don't think that's, like, true that that's the case. I think that, you know, he's, you know, listen, she's supposed to tax billionaires and millionaires. Like, I don't think that's going to happen, because the left gets so much support from major corporations and wealthy people that it makes no sense that they would be supporting somebody who's going to take their money away. They're just telling you that because they want you to think the solution to all of our economic woes is that the rich are not paying their fair share. So if we can steal all their money, then we'll fix everything. It's not true, not even remotely, because the richest corporation on earth is the United States government, and they have more money than all the billionaires in the world combined by a long shot. Spend more, and it does nothing to help you. Okay? So, yeah, that's that tangent. But, you know, I don't know. I don't even know what I was just saying before that. My brain's so foggy. Haven't been sleeping. So I'm like barely hanging on to life here. But yeah, I think that, you know, going forward, they're going to continue to try to crush Elon Musk. Oh, I was talking about the rich people, you know, the thing about them paying their, you know, paying their way through or whatever. It's like, I don't fault these people for voting for somebody that they think they're going to be able to protect their wealth with. I'm not entitled to Patrick Mahomes' money. I can't throw touchdowns in the NFL. I can't win Super Bowls. Okay? Can Patrick Mahomes write a 400-page book and do research in historical archives? I don't know, maybe. Can he write articles and do copywriting? Probably not. So therefore, is he like entitled to take my money? No. If I want to give him my money by buying tickets, that's one thing. But like, you know, I just think that it's the same way with his money. Like, I'm not any more entitled to his money just because he makes more of it than I do. He just decided to go in a far more lucrative trade than I did. If I could have gone into that trade, maybe I would have, but I was just never that talented at football. So, you know, yep, what a demonic thing to want to protect your wealth. Like, the dude's putting his body through like hell that's going to lead to permanent damage to make all that money. He's bringing the league all this money. He's blessing your television set every Sunday with eyeballs. Like, you know, people are watching him play. Like, he's a figurehead of pro football now, and it's like he just wants to protect his wealth. What an idiot! What an a-hole! He should want to give it to me, because I like to do nothing but sit on my phone all day and bitch. Oh, I'm so annoyed at people. I get so annoyed at people. I get so annoyed at the mentality out there. People just like, they want to live in their utopia. They want to live in their fantasy world. They want to live in this world that's just perfect for them. It goes back to the censorship thing. The government and the state obviously has their direction for why they want the censorship they want, and it's because they want people to believe that they are the authorities again. They know they've lost the trust in so many people. The media is complicit. That media is alongside for that ride, and therefore, you know, the media has lost its credibility too. This is a great way to try to win it back, is to squash all competition, right? Which now just makes them look more blatant and more sinister. But like these, for a lot of these like other moderators and stuff, it's just they just, you know, they just want it their way. They want this little world. They want their special little world where they get to live in, where everybody says the things they want to hear, and they get to play pretend, and they get to live in. They don't ever have to grow up. They get to be children forever. The world's full of lots of things that happen that you don't like. And guess what? Those things are going to continue to happen whether you like them or not. You can't pretend like you deserve to construct this perfect world where you're not going to be exposed to things that you don't like. It makes me really wonder who raised a lot of these people. Really do. All right, well, I'm going to cut this video here. Thanks for watching. This has been Join or Die. I'm Dr. Jesse Roberts. Please like my video, subscribe to my channel, share this video, share my show, share whatever. I'll put some links of these video
of these articles in there. Sorry if I seem like a zombie right now. I think I'm going on about like 6 hours of sleep in the last 3 days, so hopefully I get some sleep tonight. Please. All right. Goodbye.